Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop, Emerald Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, Dr. Sam Lee Hancock.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you on a week-to-week basis as we look around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, technologies, services, and products that are making a difference as we go through the 21st century. And we're going to be talking specifically about the continent of Africa, all 54 nations, and now they exceed over 1 billion people. It's estimated about 1.2 billion people on the continent, and so it is on the grow. Maybe over half of the population of that continent is youth. And so they're learning, going to school, using multimedia. So it's a whole new day, a whole new dynamic on the continent. And a gentleman sitting right beside me is an expert in everything that's going on over there. This is Dr. Tigabu. He is Kassa, the last name, Managing Director of Tritente Global Energy Group, LLC. And Dr. Issa, welcome to the Emerald Planet TV.
Thank you.
Glad to have you with us. And I've heard much about the work that you're doing on the continent, many different countries. It sounds very exciting. And so tell us a little bit about yourself and then Tritente Global Energy Group. And then let's get on what's going on the continent and why is it so exciting, and the future of the economy in the world, much of that is going to start coming out of Africa.
First, thank you, Dr. Sam, for the invitation. My name is Tigabu Kassa. I am the the #1 founder with Paul Del Caso and the Managing Director of Tritente Global Energy Group. Tritente Global Energy Group is a company that specializes in the generation of power or electricity from green sources, such as solar, wind, geothermal, biomass, and the like. We also specialize in the construction and development of power transmission line projects for the distribution of power. If you produce it, you have to distribute it. So our company specializes on both fronts, in the power generation and in the power transmission and distribution.
Yeah, the distribution part, that's very important. But many people are saying they're on the African continent. What are they doing on the African continent? And we have this motto that we've now coined. It's called Africa Fast Forward. Africa Fast Forward. And I know that you believe this. You've been there now many years. But what's happening on the continent that makes the world financial markets and many investors very excited about what's going on among the 54 nations of Africa?
What is exciting about Africa is that is the next frontier, which is available for growth, basically. If you see the likes of the Asian tigers, and some of the developing countries, they are moving far away now in terms of development. So Africa is the only one which is left there, and we see a humongous potential in terms of growth and development in Africa, and that's why we really focus on Africa.
Now looking at, there are 54 nations and very diverse. And of course, they have different climatic zones, different natural resources, different population bases, different education, all that. It's just really a mix. But when you look at the continent itself, what do you see as far as where things are going in the future?
Well, the main area that our company really focuses on is power, energy. And energy is a source of everything, basically. If Africa wants to grow, energy must be the main platform that Africa needs to follow. So Africa is endowed with a lot of green energy sources. You know, the sun is there, solar is available, wind is available, geothermal is available, even natural gas and the likes are available as well. But you know, what we see in Africa is a humongous potential to grow all these areas you know, in the coming 10, 15 years, where each country can grow also parallelly, and going from, you know, an agricultural-based economy to industrial-based economy, basically using power. So,
And also looking at the industrial base, you know, that's changed dramatically over the last 30 or 40 years as far as what we even consider industries anymore. And so the high technology revolution is sweeping across the whole continent of Africa. The use as far as cell phones, cell towers, the Internet of Things, all that is very much there. So what are they doing to leap into this new information age? And what do you see as far as more of the, I guess you say, the middle technology or the mid-ground as far as manufacturing? How are these two going to balance out?
so mainly, if you look at you know, most of the countries in Africa right now, they are highly dependent on technology transfer from the West, and mostly from the West, but to some extent now with the growth in China, from Asia as well. So what Africa needs is both developing the technology transfer front humongously, but at the same time developing you know, skill within the countries. So the youth has to be well educated in the different fields, especially in engineering and science. And that is really happening. We have seen it in countries like in Ethiopia, in Kenya, in Tanzania. And most of, you know, the sub-Saharan Africa countries, they are evolving because of this platform that they are doing. And we have seen also the development of different industrial parks. And those industrial parks need skilled manpower. So education is a platform, and the main thing that they need to really evolve and implement.
Yeah, I've been in about 13 different countries now on the African continent, and that's one of the things that everywhere you go is emphasizes education, education, education. And at the same time, healthcare is really a big boon there, just like it is in North America and around the globe, is that you have elderly populations, you have a very young population, but also at the same time they're trying to get their arms around, you know, a lot of the tropical infectious diseases and all that, so they're trying to see how they can balance that. So how do you see healthcare and the research and development within healthcare fitting into this information technology age on the African continent? And telemedicine is something else that's becoming really big.
Exactly. I think most of the countries, with the help of different foundations, such as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they are doing a lot of work and preventative type of, you know, medicine. And at the same time in the area of like HIV, malaria, and all kinds of different infectious diseases like TB and the likes. So there are a lot of research with the help of these foundations, and also even the United Nations, which is a World Health Organization, also is doing a lot of work in the health front in the continent. I think it's improving. And I will see it more improving in the coming decade or two as well. And I think Africa is getting better. Yeah.
Well, I really teed that up because it really comes back to energy, and you have to have that, but it's got to be across the whole nation. So you can go in many countries, and you'll be in the urban areas. You have roving brownouts in some of these places, then you go into the hitherland. It may not be, you know, you see the grid passing through, but you don't see it actually coming down into that major town or a village. So that goes back to the work you're doing. You're looking at a 1,200 megawatt system in Ethiopia, and then also you're working with Kenya. So tell us a little about Ethiopia, which seems to be very concrete, and Kenya, which is really expanding at a very rapid rate.
Yes, so as one of the biggest wind energy programs that the Ethiopian government wants to undertake, the wind program that we are doing in Ethiopia has been in the making for the last 2 to 3 years. And we expect to break ground on that project in the next 2 to 3 months. And what is really fascinating about that project is it's not only power generation. It has a humongous educational and capacity building element embedded into it as well. So we see the Ethiopian Wind Energy Program to be one of the exemplary programs that the Ethiopian government can follow to develop, these renewable energy-based projects in Ethiopia.
So this will be like a continent-wide model program then, so it can be replicated in other nations that would have wind capacity. And also, I guess you could tie solar into that as well.
That is exactly the case. And if you think about it, if you educate the people in putting together and developing a wind turbine, for example, that's a humongous thing. So they can be able to manufacture it themselves in the country to use it in the different sites that Ethiopia is blessed with wind, So yes, it's very important to have this model, implemented in the continent.
And what are you doing in Kenya? Let's pop to Kenya, and then I've got one or two other questions, and then we're going to be out of time.
Yeah, I'm very excited to tell you about Kenya. In Kenya, we have signed several memorandum of understandings with the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum to construct high voltage transmission line projects, 42 different transmission line projects. Out of the 42 currently, our company is in the contract negotiation and signing phase for the first 4 lines.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. In addition to the transmission line projects in Kenya, we partner with a solar company based in Los Angeles named Solar Provider Group, and we are engaged in developing a 200 megawatt solar photovoltaic power station, one in Cliffe, one in Kajiado County in Kenya, under a power purchase agreement with Kenya Power, with the government of Kenya technically. And we'll get a concession of like 20-25 years for selling the power to the grid directly, basically.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So what do you see other infrastructure-wise that's going to be going on, and we're going to close out on that question.
Currently, we are expanding from power to other infrastructure development projects, such as telecommunication, which my colleague and my friend came and talked to you about. And also, we are doing road projects, railway construction projects, port development projects in various countries, just to mention in Cameroon and in Tanzania.
That's absolutely fantastic. And what do you see for the growth of your company over the next 5, 10, 15 years?
I see our company growing and engaging in different infrastructure development projects in at least 20 countries in the next 5 years.
That's absolutely incredible. This is Dr. Tigabu Kassa. He is the managing director of the Tritente Global Energy Group, LLC, talking about infrastructure projects, particularly in power areas across the continent of Africa, and saying they're going to expand into 20 countries. That's incredible. And thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.
You got a king?
Go fish!
It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? It may be too late to check when you're on the road. Fortunately, you're on the couch. Don't think you know. Know you know.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we look for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, services, products, and of course the people are making a difference as we go through the 21st century. And we're going to be chatting with a gentleman who's sitting in the studio with me about the continent of Africa, all 54 nations, now over 1 billion people in the continent. And we have a new motto, Africa Fast Forward. Africa Fast Forward. because the continent is definitely on the move. Many people have deep misconceptions about what is actually happening there, and the times are a-changing, as the old song goes. And this gentleman sitting right beside me is Dr. Tigabu Kassa, who is the managing partner for the Tritente Global Energy Group. And that's a very fitting name because of all the energy work that you're doing, Dr. Kassa. But you're the managing director of your organization, this Tritente Global Energy Group. And there's a lot of responsibility, it's a lot of pressure, but a lot of joys and rewards in what it is that you're doing. And as you know, that it's a very youthful population. Some people say it's 50% of the population are in the youth age. And so when you're talking to them and you travel around the different countries, how do you share with them what it is that you're doing and why you're taking this risk going back to Africa, going back home in a sense, in order to bring development and to really expand a very robust power footprint across the African continent?
Yeah, mainly Dr. Sam, both myself and my business partner, Paul Del Caso, are blessed to come from two different continents, basically, and function in two different continents. Originally, we came from the continent of Africa, specifically from a beautiful country called Ethiopia. And we also make a home in America. So we have seen and we have tasted the beauty of America and what America can do for immigrants like us. And we make a life, and we want to take that life now and give back to the community where we came from. So the youth, whenever I see them, I encourage them. Everything is possible. Just make sure you go to school and you get the right education and the right skills. And the fact that Africa will grow is not a myth. It is going to happen, and we have seen it, and it is happening. And we want to be part of that process, basically.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely fantastic what you're doing. I first went on the continent in 1976. So I've been going there for a long time in many different countries. And the change is just profound of what's going on there. And so you're part of that legacy that you're developing there on the continent. But looking at your company, Tritente, as far as the global energy group, tell us a little bit about how you're collaborating and you're working with many different companies, not just your own company, and progressing forward, but you're bringing many others with you. Yeah. How does that work when you're doing it really on a continent-wide basis? So
mainly at the beginning, our model was basically we have to partner with companies, big companies like Tritente Group, if you have learned about Tritente, which we took to Ethiopia. We convinced Tritente saying that Africa has an immense potential for business development and business proposition, and we can do business in Africa. And just that model worked not only with Tritente, with other companies such as Artilium Europe, and now we are engaged also with several companies in China. And in China also there is a big move that most companies wanted to collaborate with American-based companies. So it really worked beautifully for us. But now even our Pan-African partner, Tritente, is encouraging us as a new company to evolve into becoming a primary EPC contractor and also develop a skill to put together both sovereign-based financing and also project financing for private projects as well in Africa. So we see the model evolving and changing and getting better.
Now, looking at that, of course, you were highly educated in the United States. You're taking those skills back to the African continent to apply them there. You're honing those here still in the United States. So you're straddling two continents, as you were saying earlier. But now as you are evolving, where you're actually packaging deals and doing all that, and we always say there's 5 things you need for every project: money, 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 and money. Yes. So, and that's what you're actually doing. So how are you going out and involving, you know, the banks or private lenders or investment groups to come in and be a part of what it is you're doing, because you're doing the hard assets, the infrastructure, and yet you're still providing and more the financing for these projects.
Yes, and what is beautiful is, you know, our partners, such as Tritente Group, is an expert in project financing, both sovereign project financing for several countries all over the world, and also for project financing for private projects. And in addition to that, we start strengthening our relationship with our partners, and at the same time sourcing into other sources of financing. So we're talking to different multilateral institutions, financing institutions. We're talking to private investors, private equity, hedge funds, and the like, who has the money to invest and make a very good return from Africa. So our model is expanding not only in America, but also we talk to financing sources in China and other countries in Europe as well.
Yeah. Looking at the various projects, I know you have some immediate projects, and you mentioned that, you know, in a few months you're going to be breaking ground on this. But looking at short-term, mid-term, and long-term, what kind of projects do you have, and what is the mix? Is there a general theme or type of project now, or is it many different types of projects?
So our company really believes in a short term, the Ethiopian wind energy program has to be in effect, and then
so bringing energy first and then doing other types of infrastructure.
Yes, exactly. And without energy you cannot do anything. I mean, even if you think about telecommunication or others, you need power. And in Kenya we also believe the transmission line projects will evolve, and the solar power generation projects also will evolve. And then we have different projects in the pipeline, such as, you know, the construction of port and railway in Cameroon, power plant generation construction in Tanzania, a port construction in Tanzania that we partner with the Chinese. So all these projects, I believe, in the next 2 to 3 years will come to an effect, basically.
Now, my understanding is you have about $10 billion. I mean, with a B, that's getting to be big money. Projects that you're working on, but yet you already ambitious to expand beyond that to another $10 billion. So as you're packaging and working on this first, it's like this wind generation project in Ethiopia, the grid-based project in Kenya. So what are people now seeing in your company that's saying these guys really do have a very solid footprint on the continent? So we now need to be engaged and allow them to do even more. How do you manage that so that you don't get ahead of yourself, everything is in proper order, and the projects are moving along so that people feel really good about your company, about you, and at the same time what the benefit they're getting from this investment? Yeah,
so as you know, word is spread. And your reputation, your integrity matters. And the fact that you deliver projects matters. The fact that your ability to bring money and resources to implement these projects matters. And this government sees that. And they judge you basically based on your deeds and, you know, your performance and your ability to provide, you know, all the things that they require to provide in terms of project implementation, mainly financing for the project. So, which is really the main thing. And our ability really is embedded to that, because our partners and our company also is evolving in our ability to source money for project development, infrastructure development in Africa.
One of the things that's key, and I hear this each time I go back to the continent, which is almost on a yearly basis, is educating local people so that they become involved. In other words, taking this giant youth surge that's going across the continent, being sure it's well educated, but also that it has jobs. Because in many societies, they get a lot of education and then nowhere to apply it. So what is it you're doing with your company that you can pluck out that the best talent you have, but actively engage them so they feel like they're contributing to themselves, their families, but also back to their country and the continent itself.
So if you think about it, our model has a win-win situation for both the financing country and also for the project implementation country, okay? So the financing country always gives financing because of exporting, goods and services from, for example, from the U.S. to Ethiopia in our wind energy program. But however, the client also, the Ethiopian government, will benefit because we are bringing a state-of-the-art technology, state-of-the-art knowledge from the U.S., which is the best country in the world. So it's a win-win situation. So when you bring this technology, the youth will be engaged because our work also engages and requires local content building. So we have to hire these people, these youth. All the groundwork is going to be done mostly by them. It's just the technology and the money which is going from here to there. So, and our services basically.
Now, we're about running out of time, but what is this drive that you have that you want to give back to the continent, to develop the infrastructure, to put in the energy systems? What is, and you have a very positive energy, but it's definitely a drive to give back. Why is that?
I mean, mainly, like I told you, originally I came from Ethiopia. My business partner came from Ethiopia. Our connection to the continent goes back all the way. So we see it as a moral obligation and as a duty for us to participate and make a difference in the lives of the people there. It's not only making money. Believe me, our plan and our model involves using our own profit in building clinics, roads, infrastructure, and the like. So
social responsibility is part of that core, part of the base as far as what you're doing. That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with us. This is Dr. Tigabu Kassa. He is the managing partner for the Tritente Global Energy Group, talking about the work they're doing across the African continent as we create the Emerald Planet.
One day these rats were playing in the woods. Well, it's some matches and that's no good. Listen to smoke before you give it a try.
Only you.
Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about nothing very nice. A homeless mind. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire.
Why don't you just wash your car at home?
When I wash my car, everything runs down the street and down into the storm drains. With all the chemicals in the soaps and waxes, the last thing I want to do is poison my own drinking water. At least here, it's all contained and recycled on site. That's why I also take my car in for oil changes instead of doing it myself. I might take a chance on spilling stuff. You know what the best part is?
What?
More time to kick back and watch the game.
How far would you go to protect the planet?
I want you to build an ark. Here we go. Okay, that's good. Oh, okay. Ow!
Maybe there's another way.
People, the flood is imminent!
Is it too much to ask for a little precipitation?
Go to fightglobalwarming.com to find out what you and your community can do to reduce global warming pollution.
Somewhere around the world, there are men and women of the armed forces risking their lives, helping rebuild communities after natural disasters, collecting toys for needy children, tutoring kids in school. These are your sons and daughters who work to keep us safe, secure, and free. Dedicated men and women who put their country first.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome back to the Emerald Planet as we come to you on a week-to-week basis, as we say, looking for the best of the best technologies, the best solutions across the globe. And we're doing that because we want to increase the quality of life across all continents and in all countries around the world, so that people are actually having an enhanced quality of life and not just existing. And one of my good friends is actually sitting right in the studio with me. This is Dan Bice. He is the principal and president of Terramarco, and also the, as you can see here on the slide here, Pangea Lube Dialysis Systems. And coming in by Skype is Jim Rickson. He is the principal of Orbitron Companies. And we're going to be talking with about some very special product that he's come up with. And Dan's involved with that as well. So Jim, are you here with us by Skype?
I am, Jim.
Okay, glad to have you here. Thank you for being, and you've been on before, so we're glad to have you back. Tell us a little bit about the Orbitron companies and why you think it's very important to be involved in the African continent, and of course you're doing work all around the globe, so fill us in on that.
Thank you, Dr. Sam, and Dan, it's good to see you. You know, it's interesting listening to Dr. Kassa, just speaking recently, and he was talking about the issues of brownouts and downtime and getting power to Africa to do the things that they want to do. It's exactly what Orbitron addresses. So think of our product, hence Dan's name of the company, of dialysis for lubricant systems. So just like you would plug yourself in if you've got, you know, an issue with your kidney failures or whatever, to treating your blood, this treats the lubricants for large reservoir applications, be those power plants, shipping, manufacturing facilities, any number of issues that use lubricants, which are all over the world today. But in power plants specifically, they don't have to change their oil anymore. So the green story is very simple. Don't take a barrel of oil out of the ground, you don't turn it into a lubricant, and you don't have to dispose of it.
Yeah, I tell you, I think it's absolutely fantastic. But we're going to take a little different tack. We're going to be talking about the lubricants in a little bit. But you have this new product that I was quite impressed with, because the impact it can make in hospitals and health clinics, even in people's homes, called Safety Shield. Now, tell us a little bit about what is Safety Shield and why you think that's important enough that you would actually put it under the Orbitron company's umbrella.
You know, you were just talking with Dr. Kassa again about tropical infectious diseases. And the typical antibacterial hand sanitizers that are on the market right now, there's an integral product called triclosan that was outlawed by the FDA at the end of last year. It has to be out by the end of this year. This is going to radically change that. So think about when you, and everybody that watching this can associate putting that hand sanitizer on, washing it around, and while it's wet, it's working for maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds. This product that we have, Safety Shield, works for between 4 and 12 hours, depending upon the pathogens. And we're talking about C. diff in hospitals, anthrax, Ebola, MERS, Dengue. Now, a number of those still need to be tested. We need to prove those out, but we have a number of those that have already been proven out. So it's pretty life-changing.
So in essence, how you see this coming under the Orbitron umbrella is that you're really using advanced technologies that's really saving lives and also saving the environment at the same time. So to me, that makes perfect sense. And particularly, as we know from just the loss of malaria, every 30 seconds a child dies on the African continent. And there's many other infectious diseases besides malaria. So you're really addressing all of those. So thank you, Jim, for sharing that. Dan, looks like he's coming in okay by Skype. Why don't you ask the next question?
Thank you. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Dan.
So tell us, how did you develop Safety Shield within the context of the Orbitron family of companies? What was the genesis?
You know, it's fascinating, and I cannot take credit for that. Much smarter people than I developed it. So a number of years ago, there was a group of scientists that were working with building essentially synthetic skin, primarily for burn victims. And what they found is when they applied this synthetic skin, while it worked quite well, they were getting infections. They were getting pathogens and bacteria that were getting in and causing a problem. So they said, come up with a pathogen killer that helps us make this skin stick. They developed that. That's what is today Safety Shield. We split those two companies into two. The skin thing went off on its own, and that's the genesis of what is Safety Shield.
Great. Well, looking at this, you're calling it a sanitizer, and I guess this is kind of a convenient label that you're putting on so people kind of know what you're talking about. But really, as you describe it, it sounds like it's a real misnomer to be calling it a sanitizer based on what we know that people are using in schools and shopping centers and restaurants and things like that. So why is this such a unique product still be called a sanitizer? Are you evolving the terminology, evolving the nomenclature around this product so people understand what it really is?
Sam, it's a great point. At the end of the day, we can't fight that which exists in the market today. So it's not only hand sanitizer, but we also have a surface sanitizer. But think about going into operating rooms or gymnasiums, locker rooms. Any place that you have a lot of bacteria, pathogens, and viruses flowing around, you spray this down and it kills it. It's done. So we're using the same vernacular and terminology that's been used in the market to date, but it really is something new.
Yeah. Looking at this, tell us, I kind of had a little litany when we first started to introduce you, but why don't you go into where it actually, the best uses for this, and then just kind of be as broad as you like to be about where it can be applied. You talked about burn victims and applying new skin. Rotary International, through my club, the Rotary Club of Washington, D.C., we support 7 burn units all across Latin America. About 50,000 children a year die of open burns. And another, they say as many as 6 to 7 million are harmed by that. So I'm just wondering how that would be applicable there, and then other uses that you see this across both the developed and the developing world.
We don't know, Dr. Sam. There's so many applications. So right now we're talking with a group. We've got a representative in Haiti. So we're going there to try and deal with cholera and what's working there, what's happening. We've got a shipment that's going to South Korea. They're going to be doing testing there with the CDC of South Korea as it relates to MERS. So, there's C. diff, there's anthrax, there's MERS, there's dengue, there's all manner of things. We haven't even begun to explore the depth and breadth. But here's an interesting thing. You made a comment to Dr. Kassa that the only thing that's needed is 5 components: money, 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 money. We don't need any. We've got everything covered. We've got our manufacturing in place. We've got all of our patents in place. We have our supply chain of product. We're ready to go to market right now.
That's absolutely fantastic. There's not many people who can claim that. I don't care what the product is or what they're doing. Dan, I think you've got a pretty good connection here if he's got money, 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 and money. Sounds okay. But anyway, why don't you go ahead and ask the next question?
Yeah, Jim, what makes Safety Shield such a green product?
The great thing about this stuff, and it literally, and I can't exaggerate this enough, you can bathe in it. You can swallow it. You can put it in your eye. It has no impact whatsoever. So you literally, if we had a hot spot, and I'm projecting here, so please forgive me, but if we had a hot spot of Ebola or something, we found that it was effective against that, we could fly over with the C-130 and spray an area and maybe have an effect. It doesn't hurt animals. It doesn't hurt plants. It doesn't get much more green than that. And it saves lives. Nothing more green than saving a life, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely the truth, and that's something you and I talked about earlier. We're just getting ready to put all this on. But going back to this, evolving this name, and I know you're saying it's almost like don't fight City Hall as far as not calling it a sanitizer and all that. But, this is something that when you establish a product, this is all fresh. So it really gives you, in a sense, a clean slate to do that, and particularly if you have the proper amount of funding to manufacture and distribute this. So what would you actually call this, or how would you involve this as far as a marketing program, say on the African continent, so that people understand the true significance of this? And the fact is, you just don't wipe it on and get rid of it. You wipe it on, and as you were saying, it's almost like a hand lotion. It stays with you for a number of hours, and that's what's really needed, because when you're in many of these countries, you realize with the lack of water, with in some places even the lack of basic soap, you need something that's going to be lasting as you go through that day. So how are you evolving that?
Again, the interesting thing, so if you look at a typical clinic, just here in the United States, never mind in Africa, but a place that has a little dispenser, a 2-liter or a 1-liter dispenser of hand sanitizer, and the nurses and the staff are hitting that thing 20, 30, 40 times a day, and they're wiping their hands off with it. And what happens with that alcohol-based solution is it cracks their knuckles and their, the joints in their fingers, and so their hands get red, and they're now more prone to getting infectious diseases and bacteria and whatnot into their cellular portions of their skin. Whereas ours is just the opposite. It's a hand lotion type thing so that it softens, it doesn't crack, and it lasts for, again, it might be 4, it might be 6, it might be 12 hours, depending upon the pathogen. So we're open to your complete viewership's suggestions on what we should call it. But today, sanitizer.
Okay, we got it. Dan, you want to ask one last question, and I have one to follow up on at the very end.
Jim, how long have you been involved with the product?
It's like most things. We've been working with it now for, a couple of years. And there's trials and tribulations and false starts and legal issues and all the things that you go through, which is where the money comes from. Thank God those have all been solved. And so the patents are in place. We're ready to go to market. The warehouse is in place. The manufacturing devices are there. They're kicking out product as of tomorrow morning.
Okay, that's fantastic. Well, last question, always, Jim, is what do you see for the growth and development of this special product over the next, say, 5, 10, 15 years?
Dr. Sam, we hope it's life-changing for the planet, not just for Africa, but, if we can have an effect on things like C. diff, which is usually problematic in all of the clinics and hospitals across the world, anthrax, who knows, perhaps MERS, perhaps even the mosquito-borne viruses of malaria and some other things. Again, those are transmitted by bugs, so perhaps we're not effective there, but anything that requires touch, communication, we can have an effect on.
That's fantastic. This is Jim Rickson. He's a principal of Orbitron Companies. We're talking specifically, as you can see here, Safety Shield, which is a whole new way of, Dan, looking at how you take care of people and germs within hospitals and clinics and homes. And we thank you for being with us as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.
You know what, guys? There's a lot of tree branches and dry brush over here. We should probably move the bonfire over there.
I'm guessing Smokey liked that idea.
Hey, Hard, what's this?
That's my resignation. You're resigning.
Why? You've been putting me under a lot of pressure lately. That's why I'm ready to quit.
Oh, I forgot. I'll do better. Please don't quit on me.
Don't let your heart quit on you. Get your uncontrolled high blood pressure to a healthy range before it's too late.
So you can't save money? That's easy as pie. Brown bagging lunch instead of going out. $6 save times 5 days a week times 10 years is $21,000. That's a lot of lettuce. Small changes today, big bucks tomorrow. Feedthepig.org.
Did you know kids who play outdoors have healthier lungs?
Totally. I did. Did you know that boys that play with dolls make better husbands?
My son has lots of dolls. But did you know terry cloth diapers breathe better?
I did.
It's totally true.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know that strollers have the right of way on the sidewalk?
Yes.
Yep, I did.
Did you know that kids who eat breakfast have higher GPAs?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's actually what I was going to say.
Did you know babies should never touch silver? It's really bad for them.
I knew that.
Did you guys know that statistically friendly kids have more friends?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's obvious.
Did you know most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat to make sure your child is protected.
I'm putting that on my blog.
I just put it in mine.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you on a week-to-week basis looking around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, technologies, services, products, and the people, of course, that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. I'm Dr. Sam Hancock, the President, Executive Director of Emerald Planet and the Emerald Planet TV. And we're looking around the globe to find these best practices so we can share these. For many years, we were going around meeting with people and been in 89 countries, and we're communicated with almost all 214 countries and territories. But we knew about all these people, but how do you share that? And so that's the Emerald Planet TV. And a gentleman sitting right beside me has been a very active part of that since I've known him. This is Dan Bice, Principal and President of Terramarco and Pangea Luba Dialysis Systems. And that brings in by Skype Jim Rickson, who is a Principal of Orbitron Companies. And we're going to be talking about what's so special about that and how that relates to the environment. Jim, I think you're here.
Hi, Dr. Sam.
There you are. Good to see you again. Tell us a little bit about Orbitron. You're a principal in Orbitron. And how do you decide what special technologies, just like this, we call this, I guess, the Luber dialysis systems for all kinds of oils, anything that's oil-based or petroleum-based. How do you decide that you're going to bring this into the family of companies that you have, and then in turn take that out to the world in ways that are making a difference, not only for the economies, but also for the environment?
Thank you, Dr. Sam, and Dan, good to see you again. My partner and I, Theo Chalgren, were raising money for various entities. That was sort of our day-to-day job. We came across this technology and we were absolutely dumbfounded by it. The word disruptive is used way too frequently out in the world, but this was something that struck us as truly disruptive. So the bottom line is you hook it up to a large lubricant reservoir, and it cleans that oil like dialysis. Contrary to popular belief, oil doesn't go bad. It doesn't degrade. It essentially gets too dirty to work. What this does is removes the contaminants forever, and then ultimately removes the varnish from the insides of large things like turbines, so they operate more efficiently.
So looking at Orbitron and this dialysis unit, I'm going to continue to use that because I like it, and Dan says I have, oh, no, he didn't say I had to, but anyway, I think it really, since I had a cousin who was on dialysis for about 7 years, I understand what that's all about. Why is that so special as far as any kind of petrochemical-based lubricants that it really needs to have this kind of dialysis machine? Why not just continue to, remove the old, replace, and keep that process going? What is the dynamic of this is so special, saves the environment, but saves money? How do we do that?
Again, Dr. Sam, the green story is quite simple. Every barrel of oil that we clean, that we take care of, that doesn't need to be taken out of the ground and refined into a lubricant product, and then ultimately disposed of, is a great green story, right? We don't do things for free, though, in this world. It has to make economic sense. It has to have an internal rate of return for the entity that's working on it. So the very cost of taking the oil out of one of these turbines in a power plant, for instance, and throwing it away and buying the new lubricant, that new lubricant costs more than our machine does. So one time, not changing the oil. The more important thing, though, is downtime. When those turbines are down for repair, which might happen every 3 to 5 years, they open them up and they have to clean them. And that cost in lost power generation between $100,000 and $300,000 a day. Now,
my goodness, that's real money.
If that's a nuclear power plant, it's $1 million a day.
Oh, that's absolutely incredible. And then, of course, not having to dispose of that. And, of course, these lubricants, when they come out and they're that dirty, they really become a hazardous waste. And so what you're paying is you're paying a premium for that. So when you're looking at these turbines and the operators that are using this, what is the long-term savings to them, and how long can you keep using this dialysis machine and keep re-cleaning it? And is it months? Is it years? I mean, how long will that last? And what are the lifetime savings for this? They're paying for the machine the first time they use it. So are they paying for it 7 times, 50 times? Tell us a little bit about the ROI for that.
Yes, sir. And that's why we're working with companies like Dance that have come together to kind of really roll this out globally. So once you buy the machine, the filter is about $2,000. That needs to be replaced once a year, once the oil is clean. So the bottom line is that they never have to change the oil again. I know that sounds crazy and it sounds like a fantastic claim, but never having to change the oil again. I was working with a gentleman from Siemens, and he was telling me about a power plant in St. Petersburg that had a catastrophic failure on a turbine. It blew up. It blew the roof off the building. They were shut down for 1 year, and it cost them $300 million to come back online. So what's the rate of return on an investment that you saved $300 million?
That's absolutely that's an incredible claim. Dan, you have a question, I believe.
Yeah, Jim, you mentioned power plants. What other applications or turbines can benefit by the Orbitron system?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. You know, it was funny listening to Dr. Kassa earlier, and he was talking about the wind turbine projects that he's involved in. Wind turbines is obviously one of our target markets. Shipping, all manner of cargo shipping and manufacturing, from plastic injection molding to automobile manufacturing to robotics. All of these things use lubricants. So we can clean those, and they don't have to be changed.
Now, going to trucking companies, I mean, the United States, Western Europe, Asia, I mean, there's just trucks running everywhere, and they have all kinds of lubricants in them. You have to replace those on an ongoing basis, and it's usually based on mileage and use, heat, etc. Can your equipment be used on something as small as that, where you put it actually in a, a center that's actually taking care of such types of vehicles, or is it only for very large equipment like ships and wind turbines and the such?
Today, Sam, it's for the large applications. Our theory is that one day it's the size of this. It fits on the firewall of your car, and you never change your oil again. That's 10.0. We're on 2.0.
But it was a good question anyway.
Yeah. Yes,
looking
sir.
at the use these things across the African continent, I mean, you have great diversity there as far as climates, heat, coolness, all this, from tip to tip. And so when you're looking at a economy that's sweeping across 54 nations and growing at a very rapid rate, how do you really fit into that? And in going back to the examples as far as wind turbines being in place all across the continent.
Mm-hmm. The interesting thing, Dr. Sam, again, when you were talking to Dr. Kassa, so there's so many parallels in our two conversations tonight, which I really enjoyed, is that you were talking about the problems with brownouts and not having the power generation. Think about the fact that you have to shut down that power plant to do maintenance, and you're losing $300,000 a day in power generation. Mm-hmm. With our apparatus, you don't have those. Now, that doesn't mean we eliminate brownouts, but it does mean that we're much more efficient in what we're doing.
Yeah, and you're keeping them on, because I mean that's one of the things you have in many of the cities and towns across the continent. You have these roving brownouts where you're out of power for a certain number of hours in a day. And of course, that affects everything as far as critical infrastructure, IT, and of course fire response, telecommunications, and all those kinds of things. Looking at the impediments that you face when you're trying to service 54 very different countries, straddling the equator, how do you do all that and make sure that your equipment works? And what are the power sources for the machines themselves?
Those are great questions. First of all, the power source is very simple. It's 110 volt or 120, depending upon the country that we're in. So it's literally a very simple apparatus to plug into an outlet, a duplex outlet. It looks like a refrigerator when it's working. There are no moving parts. There's a pump that pumps the lubricant through our filter system. But in terms of watching it, it looks like watching your refrigerator in your kitchen. It's very boring in that respect. The impediments in getting our product out there is the status quo. Truly, it's the hardest thing is to talk to the plant manager and to have him understand, I've been doing this, it works, I change the oil every once in a while, I throw the old oil away. Why should I change? That's the hardest part.
Yeah. Now, looking at that, when you're in that really, and then I'm going to have Dan ask a question from you, but when you're going into that kind of operation, who is the first person that you need to deal with? Is it somebody in the finance department? Is the president? You work back down to the vice president of operations or manufacturing? I mean, who should you be talking with? And the listeners that we have here, both domestically and international, may be in contact with the very person that you need to talk to in order to get it into those turbines, into that manufacturing facility, into the shipping fleet, whatever.
Here's the bottom line. It's the plant manager that makes the decision, but that's, again, why we're involved with guys like Dan. We're taking 30 years of our Rolodexes, and we're going to CEOs, to government officials, to people in decision-making situations that will turn around and say to the plant manager, take a look at this. Maybe we ought to change the way we're thinking about this and save money long-term on our operations.
Dan, you have a question.
Well, you talk about Rolodex. The nice thing is that this is a proven technology. Why don't you explain that this is not a lab, this is ready to go?
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, again, the money thing, Dr. Sam, we have this done, it's developed, we have machines built. There was a 1.0 system that we based this on. You always stand on the shoulders of the technology that came before you, always. No one invents anything brand new. So we are an iteration of technologies that came before us, and there's 79 machines out there that are similar to what we did in the 1.0, if you will, in Thailand, in Qatar, in Saudi Arabia, in the North Sea, in Canada. So we have a variety of operating conditions that we know what works in.
That's fantastic. Well, we're about running out of time, and thank you for being with us, Jim. Give us a quick couple of lessons learned that can help you in the future as you move forward, and we have to be quick.
Very much so, and thank you again for having me on. Here's the bottom line, getting the word out. And shows like yours, inviting us on for a second time, we're proud and we're honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Well, glad to have you, and thank you very much. Dan, thank you for being here. This is Dan Weiss. Dan is the one that helped to do the introduction with Jim Rickson, Principal Orbitron Companies. And thank you, viewers, for being with us and inviting Dan and I and Jim and Dr. Kassa into your homes. We're looking for the best of the best. We're finding it, and thank you for letting us share it with you on a week-to-week basis as we create the Emerald Planet.